Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today, I'm talking about Pokémon Legends Arceus. This takes the Pokémon formula in a slightly different direction if you've played any of the mainline Pokémon games. The biggest thing that comes to mind when I think of Pokémon Legends is a big open area where you can manipulate the camera and you can go ahead and explore this whole island. Now, this is sectioned off, similar to something like Monster Hunter, but the areas are much bigger than Monster Hunter areas. The wild Pokemon interactions are also different, one being that these wild Pokemon will try to attack you and can straight up knock you out, so you need to be able to dodge roll away from Pokemon's attacks before you send out a Pokemon of your own. Once you do set out a Pokemon, it is the typical turn-based battle mechanic of a regular Pokemon game. But if you just feel like sneaking up on a Pokemon and throwing a Pokeball at them, hoping that you'll catch it, you can totally do that, and I feel like the catch rates in this game are actually a lot higher than other Pokemon games, so even if it is a super strong Pokemon, if you throw like an Ultra Ball at their back, because that increases the odds of successfully capturing it, you know, there's a good chance that you might actually capture it without having to go into battle, which I think is pretty fun. And that kind of sets the tone of this game. It's very quick pace, very snappy. There's not a whole lot of filler here in terms of like the combat and the catching mechanics. You could do about 10 Pokemon battles in the time it takes you to do one in a previous Pokemon game, just because like the battles are so quick and snappy, and that's mostly because the Pokemon themselves do a lot more damage compared to previous games. So yeah, while this works in your favor, where it only takes like maybe 1 or 2 hits to defeat a wild Pokemon, this also works the other way around, where the wild Pokemon actually hit pretty hard on your own Pokemon as well. So that's something to keep in mind. You will be going through a lot of potions and revives to keep your Pokemon ship shape, because these wild Pokemon hurt. But it is just really fun finding like a wild herd of Ponyta, let's say, and you just are chucking these Pokeballs at them all. You're not even waiting to see if they break out of the Pokeballs or not. And this game really incentivizes that, because your main experience and currency will come from capturing Pokemon rather than battling trainers, because this game takes place kind of in the past in the region of Sinnoh, but it's in the past, so I think it's called Hisua. For those of you who are following the Pokemon series, this is mostly like the 4th generation of Pokemon. And back in the day, humans are terrified of Pokemon, understandably, because these are very dangerous animals who are very strong and have the power of fire and laser beams and hydro pump blasts and everything like that. So they can be very scary, and humans are actually pretty weary of them. However, they have made a little bit of progress when this game starts, because they have constructed these Pokeballs to capture these Pokemon, and they have a set division of rangers that are basically in charge of like anything Pokemon, whether like a Pokemon is threatening the town or if we want to do more research on a Pokemon. And this is where the professor comes into play, and he's kind of like the Professor Oak of the older Pokemon games, and he's basically in charge of persuading you to really fill out that Pokedex, which this is in the past. So rather than this little digital companion that you just scan a Pokemon with, it's just a notebook that you are filling out whenever you encounter these Pokemon. And unlike previous Pokemon game, rather than simply just catching them all, no, we have to do way more than catching them. We have to complete research tasks of each and every Pokemon. And research tasks are basically like, yeah, you can capture a bunch of these Pokemon or you can battle them a ton of times, but there are also a couple of unique research tasks for each Pokemon. Like, let's say there is a Ghastly, and one of the research tasks that you have to do is defeat Ghastly with Ghost type moves. And the more you complete this same research task, the more and more times you have to do it in order to successfully get a mark on it. So yeah, instead of catching all 200 something Pokemon that are in this game, you also need to complete their research tasks for all of them. I'm probably not going to do that, but for those of you who are completionists out there, you are going to have a lot to do here. It was kind of fun just for the heck of it, fulfilling completionist tasks for certain Pokemon that you really like, or sometimes there are side quests for these Pokemon to complete their research. And it's just fun, it's kind of satisfying for those who just like to check off boxes, you know, just fill out those objectives. It's just fun being in this past. It's probably chronologically the earliest Pokemon game. And it's just fun seeing like the old tech, like the old Pokeballs that I talk about have like steam shoot out of them and a little firework that indicates that you successfully caught the Pokemon. The architecture of all the humans and the towns, it's kind of proto in that way, where it's just like old wooden buildings, and even the clothing represents like an old Japan. So the story is a little out there. Basically, your character falls out of this portal, like this time and space portal, and falls into the continent of Hisua, and he or she doesn't remember anything at all, but you are wearing modern clothes, so it's kind of implied that you came from modern day Sinnoh, but you traveled back through time, and you just have like amnesia, so you're not really sure what's going on, and all of the natives in this island are actually pretty skeptical of you, obviously, because you fell out of this terrifying time and space portal in the sky that is just looming over them. So they're pretty skeptical, but the professor of this island quickly enlists your help to fill out his Pokedex, because you just have such a knack for catching Pokemon, and they're just so scary and dangerous, but you don't seem to be intimidated by them at all. In fact, you actually caught 3 whole Pokemon, which nobody has ever done before. So that just goes to show like how unsure they are of Pokemon, and they're really just starting to develop this relationship between humans and Pokemon. Obviously, at the beginning of the game, you are able to choose one of 3 starter Pokemon, and this game also mixes up the formula because it picks and chooses starter Pokemon from 3 different generations. So it's like Cyndaquil, Owlette, or Oshawott. I went against my normal rule of trying not to use Pokemon that I've used in previous Pokemon games, just to kind of mix things up, but I went with Cyndaquil. 1, because I have already used Owlette, and 2, I knew that these final forms of these 3 Pokemon were slightly different. So I gave myself a little leeway because the Hisuian forms of these final Pokemon are technically different Pokemon from your typical Typhlosion. Can we just say I love the Hisuian Typhlosion form in this game? I know I've read a lot of complaints about him just because he looks really sleepy or high, but I just think the fire and ghost combination is cool, and I really like the flames on his neck. But I think I did see the final forms of the other 2 starter Pokemon as well, and I think they look pretty sweet. So you really can't go wrong with any of these 3. The main village that you are brought into after you fall out of this portal is pretty simplistic, and this being like your only main city, this is like your main hub where you get all your quests and side quests, and you go shopping and you do all that stuff. As far as the layout, it is pretty simplistic, which is disappointing. If it was like a main town, I expect it to be a little more intense. It'll start you off with this tutorial, and just like all Pokemon games, this doesn't really set the bar in terms of tutorials. It just assumes that you know nothing about Pokemon, you don't know what a Pikachu is, you don't know how to catch Pokemon, which that one I kind of get, because the catching mechanics are a little bit different in this game, because you can just throw the Pokeball at a wild Pokemon without battling it, but other things are fairly hand-holdy, and the tutorial is pretty lengthy and very wordy, which wouldn't have been that big of a deal if there was voice acting in this game, but unfortunately there isn't, so you're going to be reading a lot of text here. I just think that the Pokemon Company makes enough money, they should be able to afford voice acting, but we'll get more into that in just a second. This game really opens up and shines after the whole tutorial phase is done, and especially when you unlock different traversal mechanics. Basically, you will befriend these different Pokemon that have different traversal abilities, so it really allows you to explore this island in depth. So at first, you just have this like deer that you can ride, but eventually you can go on the ocean and you can climb on the mountains, all of this different stuff. And once you have all of those traversal mechanics, that's when I felt like I just really enjoyed being in this world and finding like a nest of cool rare Pokemon. Pokemon. There's also crafting in this game, which is pretty new to the Pokemon series, just like a lot of other mechanics in this game, but you can gather up these materials and you can craft your own potions and Pokeballs and all of these different items. That's just another incentive to wander around this island and explore, get all of those minerals and apricots and everything. However, the item storage is very stingy, and this was one of my biggest annoyances. Basically, you have a limited number of items in your pouch that can fit in your pouch, and I was suddenly having flashbacks of the first Pokemon game, Red and Blue, where you can only have like 20 items before you need to transfer them to your PC. It was just like in this game, where you can only hold so many items, then you have to go back to your item box and store all of those items so then you can gather more, because there's nothing more annoying than trying to gather up a mineral and it says, oh, your item pack is full, you can't carry this with you. That was a really big bummer. Now, they do give you the option to buy more storage space, but every time you buy a additional storage slot, the price of this goes up and up and up, and I felt like this was the biggest money sink for me in the game. I felt like I couldn't have fun buying different costumes or anything like that for my character because I was just saving up all of my money for these additional item slots. By the time I decided to record this casual review, I still haven't unlocked them all just because the cost goes up so astronomically. I mentioned quests, and I can't remember if Sword and Shield had these quests and side quests or not, but they are here, and they range from things like capture this Pokemon, complete the research tasks on the Pokedex for a certain Pokemon, or go catch like all the different variants of this one Pokemon. You know, it just varies, like go capture a really big Pokemon. And I felt like the rewards for these side quests actually weren't that great. I think I would have appreciated maybe more of an RPG approach to these side quests, where it gives like maybe all the Pokemon in your party some experience points or something like that, rather than just like, oh, thanks for going out and doing this, here's some Stardust, go ahead and sell it and get a little bit of currency. Because some of these side quests, while some are actually pretty easy, other ones are frustratingly hard. Like one where you have to capture a Buzzile. This is like one of the first side quests that you get. I think it's called a Buzzile, the otter looking things, and you have to capture one that is at least 2 feet and 8 inches high, and they aren't around. I felt like I captured maybe 50 of these Buzziles before I just gave up and decided to come to this later. And if you are stuck on this quest, I want to point out the concept of alpha Pokemon, where if you are exploring this world, occasionally you will come across these alpha frenzied Pokemon that are super strong and a lot bigger than the typical variant of the Pokemon. And if you happen to find an alpha Buzzile, go ahead and capture that, because that will definitely meet the height limit for this side quest. But the alpha Pokemon are one of the coolest things about this game, because yeah, you can, especially early in the game, you can come across some of these alpha Pokemon that are good like 20 or 30 levels above you, and it's pretty much guaranteed that the Pokemon you send out is going to get destroyed. Now, you are able to capture these Pokemon, however, which is really exciting, because you can capture a Pokemon that is a good 20 levels higher than your highest level Pokemon in your party, and you can just go ahead and use them, which is so beneficial, especially if it's like a really cool Pokemon that you like and you capture it. That is a really exciting moment. And I felt like that was one of the main reasons that I didn't stick with a typical party that I went out and planned with. Normally when I play a Pokemon game, I set out like, hey, these are the 6 Pokemon I'm going to use during my playthrough, and I stick with them the whole time. In this game, Pokemon were just constantly rotating out of my party, like, oh, sorry, you know, I really liked you, Driftbloom, but get out of here. I got this new Pokemon that's way awesome and even a higher level than you are, and just this constant rotation, which kept things very fresh. However, you don't feel as connected to Pokemon. I know that sounds kind of silly, but like, they don't really feel like they've been with you this whole journey. Obviously, I kept my Cyndaquil and then my Typhlosion with me the whole time, and he was, I think, level 80 by the time I decided to do this casual review, so he stuck with me through and through. The other ones just were on a constant rotating basis. You aren't going to come across a lot of these trainer battles, which makes sense in the lore, because there aren't a lot of of Pokemon trainers. We're just kind of getting used to this whole idea of this dynamic relationship. But you do come across a couple of them, especially as the game goes on and more Pokemon trainers arise. As far as the Pokemon trainer battles go, I felt like they were a lot easier compared to the wild Pokemon battles, which isn't the case in other previous Pokemon games. It seems like the wild Pokemon hit you way harder than the Pokemon trainer battles, and especially if you've been capturing these alpha Pokemon as you are exploring, when you come across these trainer battles, they're pretty much a cakewalk. In this story, basically, these guardians of each of the sections of the island are becoming frenzied for some reason because of like this time-space rift that's hovering above the island, and so it's your job to go across the island and quell their fury. And basically how you do this is you just throw a bunch of these balms at them to calm them down, and you're just chipping away their life force essentially as you're dodging their attacks. It's a fun break away from the typical Pokemon battles, but this does replace gym leaders. So you're not going to be going around fighting these 8 gym leaders, gathering these badges, and then fighting the Elite Four. The formula is completely changed on its head, and basically how you rank up, which is like the equivalent of badges, is you have to complete these research tasks for your Pokedex, which is even more incentive to go around and capture and battle as many as you can, because then you will essentially like level up. You'll get a rank up, and this will say like, okay, now that you got this additional rank, Pokemon up to this level will listen to you, and you can now craft these Pokeballs. This kind of acts as a little gate from you capturing like a super strong alpha Pokemon and using it, because if it is too high of a level, it won't listen to you all the time. Overall, I think the story is actually pretty good, especially for a Pokemon game, and in the late game, it just gets more and more exciting and crazy, and it's just fun as you play along and do all of these side quests, just seeing the Pokemon slowly get incorporated into this city that was initially terrified of Pokemon. So let's say you talk to a hairstylist, and she'll say like, hey, I need some inspiration for some different hairstyles, and you go out and catch a Misdreavus for this hairstylist. Then anytime you pass this hairstylist, she'll just be hanging out with this Misdreavus. So there's a lot of cases like this, like let's say farmers out in the field, they're like, hey, go capture a water Pokemon for me. Then just after that, you'll see this water Pokemon hanging out and working on the fields. And eventually by the end of the game, your whole city, your main hub, is populated by these friendly Pokemon just helping out, which is something that you're very used to seeing in modern day Pokemon games. Visually, I do think the game looks okay. It's been getting a lot of heat because there's a lot of frame rate drops, especially for objects that are moving in the distance. They can get down into the single frame rate, and there are some jaggy edges for your characters. But I don't know, I think the cel-shaded look looks pretty good, and I still think it's one of the better looking Pokemon games that I've played. I know that the Pokemon Company, I talked about this with the voice acting, you know, the Pokemon Company obviously is not short of money. They sell more video games than any other video game company in the world. I might be exaggerating there, but they are fairly popular, and they have a ton of money, and it just feels like they could be using these resources in a better way. But, you know, I actually don't have too much to complain about the visuals. The lack of voice acting, I think, gets me a little more than that. It could be considered a short game if you were just rushing through the whole main story. I bet you could probably beat this game in a day if you were just focused on doing the main quest and not straying, not really catching any other Pokemon. The main thing, yeah, you could probably beat this game in a day. However, there are so many little shiny objects in the distance that make you want to explore, and it makes you want to do all the side quests, and you just want to really uncover everything that this game has to offer. And even after the credits roll in this game, there is a ton of post-game stuff to do, and normally once I roll the credits, I call it a day and I move on, but there's just something really pushing me to go out and do some of this post-game stuff, and it actually is pretty cool, and I do recommend doing like that extra main quest that comes after you roll the credits, because you can catch a lot of really powerful legendary very cool Pokemon as well. And it's just fun, you know, going across, filling out your Pokedex, doing all of these research tasks, and it's just fun checking off those boxes and hoping that you can find like the next cool rare Pokemon that you have liked in the previous games. Even going like shiny hunting is always exciting. However, I never found a shiny Pokemon while I played this game besides this one shiny Pokemon. I won't say what one, but they just give it to you by doing one of these side quests, and it was fairly early on, and so that was kind of like a gimme. I wish that I saw more shiny Pokemon, but I guess the finding rate for these is pretty low because I never came across any other one. I definitely know they're in the game though. I don't think I'm even done playing this game, especially after I record a casual review. That's when I move on, but I think I'm not done playing through this one. I think I will pick it up from time to time, and I think that's a testament to how enjoyable this game is. I felt like as the game went along and I unlocked more and more traversal and different Pokemon, I found myself enjoying this game a lot more. It's the most fun I've had playing a Pokemon game in a while. I think I will give this game a 5 out of 5. I've always liked Pokemon. I just want to have that little caveat because I do like the whole world and I do enjoy the series. But if you haven't liked other Pokemon games, if they've seemed a little too slow for you and the random battle encounters have you annoyed, maybe look into this game because it does mix up the formula enough to keep things exciting and quick, and you're just always wanting to see what's over the hill, because it does, I wouldn't like quite compare it to Breath of the Wild, but it does have that essence where it plops you in a land and just says like, okay, go explore, see what you can find, and that's always exciting in a video game. Well guys, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Pokemon Legends Arceus or Pokemon in general, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. What starter did you choose? Have you found any shinies? Have you had better luck in that field than I have? Just let me know. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye!